Did you see that they're doing an X-Files reboot again?
Another one?
Yeah, with like some other dude, Ryan Coogler. I feel like we've talked about this before. I wonder if this is one of those things that every couple years there's some obscure project that's like maybe kind of in the works, but it gets shared around every time because people will click on it because it's a beloved show and they're like, oh, they're doing it again.
Are David Duchovny and
I don't know.
Gillian Anderson doing it?
According to Bloomberg, the X-Files will be making another comeback in the near future, this time with Black Panther director Ryan Coogler at the helm. Developed by Disney, it's still unclear whether this new version of the show will be a continuation of the original series or a reboot, although back in March, creator Chris Carter mentioned on a podcast that he had been in talks with Coogler about remounting the show with a diverse cast.
Okay.
So, mixed feelings from David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson.
Fair enough.
It's not something that I necessarily need in my life to go do that. I think at this point, I mean, there might be another iteration of the actual show without either of us. So, I didn't watch the 2018.
No,
I've heard very mixed things about that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too. I mean,
like I feel like people were like very betrayed by the character choices, or I don't know.
Well, I never got the vibe from what people were, what I was reading from reactions, that it was like this, like the same or whatever, or like it was like the old show, and I'm like, that, like, for me to get into a new iteration of it, it would really just have to be that again. Like I don't care about just like continuing a series for the sake of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless that series is Silent Night, Deadly Night, so I guess I can't speak too highly of myself. I guess TV series, because that's a lot more like, time investment than a few movies.
Yeah, it's like Twin Peaks: The Return. Yeah. I can get behind that because even in like the season 2 finale, it's like, I'll see you in 25 years.
Yeah,
and they did it again in 25 years, which is insane to like wait that long. Half the cast is like dead or actively dying, and they're like, I said 25 years, I'm gonna do it 25 years. But this just seems like, I don't know, because I think people are gonna, it's kind of like Star Wars, where they're gonna try to do something new, but they're going to be held down by stuff from the past. So it's like fans are gonna not like it either way, because it doesn't balance between like fan servicey stuff they recognize and new stories. But they're like, I don't care about these new stories because I don't have enough of the fan servicey stuff that I recognize, and it's just gonna be something completely in the middle that no one really likes all that much.
Yeah. It's mostly kind of a good way of putting the state of Star Wars,
because that just seems like whenever I see anything about like any new Star Wars movies, it seems like people, you get your like contrarian defenders that will like, oh, Rise of Skywalker is the greatest one. I don't even remember which. The Force Awakens
is episode 7.
Yeah, that's the first of the new ones. Then it's
The Last Jedi.
And then Rise of Skywalker is the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't even remember them.
Yeah. I think the general consensus with Star Wars for fans, I'm sure that there's people who will just eat up anything, but I do think the general consensus is most people just want new stuff. It's like, we're done with the Skywalkers. We didn't need more of that. Let's tell new stories with new characters in this universe. But just say, just keep dredging up, like, characters from like the animated shows, like Ahsoka got her own show, and like I didn't even watch that one.
I kept seeing edits or like clips from that on like Instagram and TikTok. I guess because they brought back Hayden Christensen for that.
Yeah.
And
He was
there
in the
was
Obi-Wan one too. So.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and because Ewan McGregor came back for that too.
Mm-hmm.
But there was like some clip that I saw where I think it was a battle, and it was like Ashoka. Is that her name?
Ahsoka. Yeah.
Ahsoka. I think they're fighting together. I think they're on the same team at the time. But then like Anakin walks away, and as he's walking away, like lightning flashes, and you see the Vader, and then it's like it flashes back to normal or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like constantly referencing, like, do you get it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of neat. I don't know. I think I was a sucker for it a little bit. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool little.
No, that's a cool little
visual
flair.
twist.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
that's
nifty.
okay. That's okay. It's just like what they'll do is they'll take characters like, I mean, okay, I didn't see Ahsoka, so I can't speak on it myself, but I did watch the Book of Boba Fett, and it was just a nothing show. But they're like, hey, people know Boba Fett from the old movies. People love Boba Fett. And that's kind of what I mean. But like they did The Mandalorian, new character, new story. It's still set around the same era, but completely new, thing. And it was a hit. People loved it.
Right.
And then they're just like, okay, now that was our one idea. So now we're gonna just go back to the well and just. I think every show since has been pre-existing character. Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Andor, although people love Andor. But still existing characters, nothing new. So much. Hollywood is bankrupt creatively.
Just like this the second reboot of the X-Files, like
within
in
10
the
years
last
or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it was like 2018 or something.
Yeah, and I remember that being like kind of a big deal at the time because people.
It was, yeah.
It's a 90 like that. It's crazy because Twin Peaks and X-Files are kind of around the same time. A little bit of crossover. David Duchovny was in Twin Peaks.
Yep, right. Yeah.
Was he in The Return as?
I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because then there's that famous quote from David Lynch's character about because David Duchovny plays like a trans woman.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a line where his character's like, it's like, oh, I don't know if they don't believe that I'm a woman or something like that. And that's where David Lynch's character's like, well, if they don't understand it, they need to fix their hearts or die. And I think that's become like a mantra in like the trans community. Like I think Chloe has a pin that says like "fix your hearts or die" on it or something like that. It's pretty good. It's like it's good. Very like in a Lynch way. Like Lynch is his own type of ally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to There'll Be Duds. This is episode 131, and I'm your co-host, TJ. With me, as always,
I am Nick.
And
yep,
as always, we watched a movie. That movie being Raiders of the Lost Ark from 1981, directed by Steven Spielberg. It follows archaeologist and college professor Indiana Jones, Henry Jones, Dr. Henry Jones, as he tries to find the famed lost Ark of the Covenant from Bible times, to try to get to it before the Nazis do, because they want to use it to, do bad Nazi stuff, and they think it'll give them a power to take over the world and stuff. It's kind of a throwback action adventure homage type thing to like pulp adventure movies from like the 40s, 50s that Spielberg and Lucas kind of grew up on. It's their kind of send up to those, and it has since kind of become its own iconic action adventure series.
Yeah.
But this is the original one, and before his name was in the title. The title for this one is just Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, discussion open. This is another one. I feel like we're doing like Die Hard and this so close to each other because they're two movies that I've seen a bunch, and
yeah,
they're
also two movies that you could say are sort of like blueprints for
like tentpoles of their genres.
This is like pretty. I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff before it, but I think this is like the most popular version of like this blueprint for action adventure movies, which is interesting because I feel like Spielberg kind of has a tendency to make those kinds of movies. Like Jaws, I feel like is like sort of a tentpole in. Would you classify Jaws as horror? I guess.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
it's like horror action adventure because it's kind of like a movie about dudes getting drunk and going on a boat too.
Going on a fishing trip.
But it's like Jaws was like what revitalized like the summer blockbuster, or like made it a thing, and then he like I don't know. There's just a period of time where Steven Spielberg was just like catching lightning in a bottle repeatedly.
E.T. was right in between.
Close Encounters.
It's Close Encounters. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy how many of these movies Spielberg has under his belt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for if you would have asked me before I watched this if I'd seen it, I would have said no, not fully. Like I'm pretty sure my grandma like taped it from television onto a VHS cassette, and like I remember being in the room while it was on. But it is remarkable how much of this I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this scene. I remember this scene. Like there are a lot of like very iconic scenes in this movie. So
yeah.
Having not seen it in full, it was cool to finally like kind of sit down and watch the entire thing like in its whole. And yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun movie. I guess I think I was conflating some of the other movies in my head because I thought they were going to be in the jungle more, but I'm thinking of Temple of Doom because there's like some iconic stuff like I remember seeing the heart ripping out scene as a kid and being like absolutely terrified of that. Just like, because I think there's a part where he's like still alive after he tears his heart out, like before the body shuts down, where he's just like, and then
because then they lower him into like the pit of fire and he's like still like screaming and
yeah. But yeah, this I feel like this is like the Spielberg Lucas formula at work. Like you could almost, because like I feel like OG Star Wars has that same sort of like swashbuckling action, but like the interjections of humor, like Indiana Jones has plenty of little quips.
Well, and that's also like based on these old action movies that George Lucas watched as a kid. Like the main influence for Star Wars, it's the Hidden Fortress meets Flash Gordon.
Right.
Those are his two big things. So it was just like kind of, comic-y, pulpy kid like shit that he read as a kid.
Right.
And this does a good job of, like Star Wars does a good job of like emulating those, but also feeling fresh and doing its own thing. And obviously, like there's, like we were saying, there's so many like iconic scenes and just things from this movie that people reference in future movies, and it's like, oh, that's a callback to Indiana Jones, which is a callback to even older stuff. And I also actually put down a note that we were saying that, like, the pantheon of movie genres, and we said like Die Hard as in the action one. If you could separate out adventure, I think Raiders would be right there too. But I was also thinking back to, and I'm like, damn it, I am thinking of like, I don't, this is why I'm like bad with like picking a favorite or like making absolutes, because I'm already thinking like, I did think of like, for other movies that could take Die Hard's place, I'm like, there's like the best of the best like Bond movies could maybe be there too.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But if I had to like write it down for a test or whatever, I could, or like write an essay. I could make a case for Die Hard, and I could make a case for Raiders of the Lost Ark for sure. And also, speaking of Star Wars, there's a lot of Star Wars things in this. Like the sound. I'll say mostly it's in the score, but
it's
one thing that it's John Williams. But there's when Jock is like trying to start up his plane at the beginning, the guy who gets him out of Peru or whatever.
Yeah.
He like starts it and it kind of starts and stops. That's the exact same sound effect used for X-Wings in Star Wars. I think it's X-Wings.
Watch this.
And then there's so much of the score is, I want to say specifically The Empire Strikes Back, which would make sense because I think Empire came out the year before this, so he probably was like working on these side by side.
So it's like it's subconsciously like it's on his mind while he's making it.
It's like the love theme for this and the love theme for Han Solo and Leia in Empire Strikes Back is like they both start with like the same like half melody, but then they branch into, they change up after that, but they both start like the exact same.
That's crazy.
And then there were some other ones that they're just like kind of one of the like, I don't know, I'm sure there's specific names for them, but like one of like the action themes in like one of the battle themes from Empire Strikes Back I could also hear in one of them here. But despite that, again, just showing how crazy like good John Williams is that like working on these movies back to back or maybe simultaneously, and he created all these great themes, music for Empire Strikes Back and Indiana Jones, creating like the Indiana Jones theme song and iconic music. Just
extremely
the man is
iconic.
Insane.
Because it's like he did him and Spielberg, he's pretty much collaborated with him on nearly everything.
I think so, yeah.
Because like it's just, I'm trying to think of another composer that you can even say that you're like, give me 5 distinct John Williams theme songs and you could do it like from memory, like most people on the street. You could be like, yeah, it's like E.T., Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jaws. I mean, Jaws is like, it's 2 notes.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And then like, Jurassic Park, like
Home
that
Alone,
main
Harry Potter. You can keep going.
I forgot he did those too.
Yeah,
a lot of the characters in this are a lot of fun too. Like very again, I'm talking about Die Hard, like great side characters. This movie has a lot of great side characters. Even Alfred Molina, who's like hardly in it, like kind of dies off pretty quick. He has like even a mini arc throughout his little arc.
Yeah.
But he he's helping him out, and then he Indiana Jones has got to be like the most betrayed guy of all time. Nobody wants him to win.
Yeah.
And you could almost say, even at the very end of this movie, he still doesn't win.
Because he doesn't end up with the Ark or whatever.
Well, because so here's what's like really interesting about the ending of this movie, which almost feels tonally out of place a little bit, where the whole time it's like we need to get this from the Nazis. Like there's several scenes where you see the Ark in the box, and it's got like the eagle with like the swastika on it, and then all this action happens. Everybody gets vaporized, and then again, speaking of iconic, the guy getting his face melted off is like everybody has seen that scene. But even at the very end, it's like he brings the Ark back, and what happens? The Ark is in another box. Only this time, it's got the Americans label on it. So that means it's going to be used for good, right?
Yeah.
And then but I feel like at the very end, and maybe it's more subtle, and maybe if you've got it on your mind, you think about it this way, but it's almost like a very bummer ending where they just load it up with all of the other shit that the American government just kind of has obtained in a huge warehouse, and they're all, who knows what's in there, but they're all boxes with like the big old USA stamp on the side, and it holds on that for the ending credits. And I'm like, that's kind of a bummer of an ending if like you have any sort of understanding of like American imperialism, and like especially at that point in time in like America's history.
Yeah.
It's kind of a striking ending for like a swashbuckling action movie. I was like, oh, there's a little bit of depth here.
Yeah, and I mean, there is that music there does hint at like it's not supposed to be like a 100% happy ending, because it is kind of that like that.
It's not triumphant.
It's like that kind of those like somber, lingering horns playing, which is also one that is very like an Empire Strikes Back song.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the movie's kind of alluding to like it's in our hands, but it still could be scary and dangerous, and I think you still get like I think that like works though, because you still get like that. You still get character development with Indy.
Yeah.
Despite not like maybe coming out 100% on top.
Right.
Just with like I mean, he always had like I feel like he kind of gains more of a respect or honor towards at the very least the Ark of the Covenant, and just like but maybe like his whole like profession, like what he does and stuff, and and he gets the Goyle, which is very classic action adventure as well.
Yeah, that was it's like the cutest you've ever seen Harrison Ford, because I feel like a lot of his characters, he kind of plays these gruff, like I work alone type of guys. And like that scene on the boat after he gets shot in the arm and is dragged by a car, like you were talking about with Die Hard, like things that take you out of it when he's able to catch himself on the vent or whatever, and like his arm doesn't get ripped out of its socket. He gets like blasted in the arm, like it like there's a squib in there, and then he like climbs out and he's like dragging underneath the car, and I'm like, your arm would be in so much pain if you
just like your back or your chest would get
everything
fucked up, like fucked up.
Like, and then, but I do like how, like, once he manages to kick that guy out of the car and regain control of the vehicle, I feel like the director was like, oh, wait, you gotta, because he goes like, like after he does all that, like, oh yeah, he got shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Like the director was like, oh yeah, we gotta remind the audience, like he's not exactly Superman. He's close.
Yeah, close, but yeah.
but that scene with them on the boat when she's like trying to like bandage him up or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, that hurts." And she's like, "Where else does it hurt?" And he's like, "It hurts. It hurts up here." Oh, this wouldn't be too bad too. I was like, "Oh, he's being kind of coy." It's a tender side to Indy that I feel like a lot of, well, I guess in Star Wars, I guess the sort of romance between Han Solo and Leia. Again, I haven't seen them in their entirety, but I would imagine he kind of sheds that veneer of the handsome rogue that works alone,
Well, God damn it, Indy, where doesn't it hurt?
Here. Here.
It happens more by Return of the Jedi, I would say. In Empire, where they kind of like fall in love, it's still more like maybe
Like,
not
it's
as
playful.
like cute, but it's more like that kind of like, oh, we're fighting, but actually we're falling in love kind of thing.
Right.
Which they do in this too, but
True.
I do think that whatever you say, the curtain is dropped.
Yeah.
The veneer is dropped a little bit. I don't know the phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah. Very like Jack Sparrow. Like
Sure.
when he goes back to the bar, and she like hits him in the face, and he like kind of turns toward the camera. I was waiting for him to be like, I deserve that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, something I really like about this, like from a technical directorial standpoint on Steven Spielberg's part, is like this. I think the staging in this movie, the staging and blocking is fucking awesome. I wrote down that this is staged like Kurosawa blocks.
I could see that. Yeah.
Because there's so many good like just setups, like camera setups, where everything's like angled and whatever. I think my favorite example is that scene in Marion's bar in Nepal, because you get like that really cool shot after all the bar patrons leave and she's like cleaning up, and then you see Indy's shadow come up and like looming over, and she turns around, and then she like walks up like kind of close to the camera, and she's like in there, and they do it again when some of the guys like show up, and then you see like the guy's shadow, and then he gets shot and the shadow disappears. And there's also a part, I think, before the Nazis show up, and she's kind of like to Indy, she's like, come back tomorrow, I'll tell you then, or whatever. He's like, okay. And he's leaving, and he kind of like turns around and like half closes that like lattice door, and the shadow like covers his face except for his eye. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. The positioning of it.
Because he turns and he kind of looks and gives her like he holds on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember thinking like, I bet they had to like mark the floor where he needed to hit, so like they could get that light cast exactly where they need it, so like it's like completely shrouded except for that part of his face.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of that, like his character introduction at the beginning of the movie, you don't see his face for like the first,
I love his intro. Yeah.
5 to 10 minutes until I think the guy like goes to cock his gun behind him, and he like whips, and I feel like there's like that great push in on him, and he like steps out of the shadows, and it's like, that is how you do a character introduction. It's like perfect.
Yeah. The whole intro sequence, which is like 12 minutes of the movie, which is so fun. That like it opens. It's such a perfect intro to the character, to the story. It's just like, we're just gonna take like 10-15 minutes out of our 2-hour movie for just this other thing.
It's not related to the Ark of the Covenant at all.
Yeah,
he's just on a different adventure.
It's just setting up what he does, and it sets up the rivalry with him and Belloc. So
True.
It does serve to have a purpose to the greater like narrative.
Yeah.
Because you do get context for some stuff. But it really is just kind of showing what he does, showing what to expect from the movie, like his cleverness, his resourcefulness, and the type of shit that he gets himself into, when he triggers all the booby traps and whatever, and also sets up that he gets betrayed and double-crossed like all the time.
I was waiting for John Rhys Davies to betray him.
Oh,
I was like, I don't trust any of these guys.
Salah's his true homie.
Yeah, that's true. With 9 children.
Yeah. And then after that, he goes to college, and this next like probably 20-30 minutes is the part that like every time I'd watch this as a kid, I would probably just like put up a wall and just like, oh, there's the talking part, and like I never paid any attention to it. But I love that stuff now. I think it's such a it feels kind of James Bondy in a way. Like you get the briefing scene where it's like, okay, we want you, this is a mission that we want you to do, and this is what it's going to entail. Can you give us any information that you may know about this? And it's just like they go back and forth, and it's essentially, it's like a pre-exposition dump. It's like you're getting all this exposition out of the way now, and setting up like the story, the main mission. It's like, okay, we're finding out what this movie is going to be about, what he's going to be doing. And then when you get to the scenes like where they're trying to find the Staff of Ra, it's like, oh, I already know why they're looking for that. I already know what it does because we talked about it at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. So you don't have to like, otherwise if they didn't do that, you'd have to like stop the movie then and then be like, okay, now let's explain what the Staff of Ra is and why they need to get to the Well of Souls. But no, they do it all at the beginning, so then you can just keep the movie going from there. Once they leave college, it's just going.
Yeah, and then you get the great scene where he sets the staff in, and the light goes through it, and it's completely, there's like no talking really whatsoever. It's John Williams' score, and it's him again, visual storytelling. Like it's not like he gets in there with the staff, and then there's like a flashback of him sitting with the college professors, and they're like, now when you get into this room, you're gonna need to take the staff, and like
I imagine this is the Saw edit where they got a flashback and like show us all the stuff that they talked about at the beginning. Yeah. Like the snap, like zoom on like the hole where the staff has to go.
Or I always think of what was it, Benedict Cumberbatch in like Sherlock, in those scenes where he's
all the numbers going,
and, like the words, it's like Webster's dictionary, and he moves it out of the way.
Yeah.
The only other note, I only took a couple notes because I was just kind of my first note was, that's how you introduce a character. My second note, that monkey is a Nazi.
Yeah, it does a Nazi
I had to rewind it because the monkey does a little Sieg Heil, and I was like, what?
It's the cutest Sieg Heil ever.
That's like, you see him and you're like, aw.
Yeah.
And then Chloe's like, oh, the monkey died? And I was like, he was a Nazi. And then when he's in there with like, he sets the snakes on fire, she's like, he didn't have to kill those snakes. And I was like, snakes are Nazis too.
Yeah, I did feel a little bad for the snakes, but yeah, I was thinking that too, that like, because I just feel bad for when the animals die, but they do make it a Nazi, so it doesn't really make you feel that bad for the monkey.
Yeah, the monkey was a little bitch. It was a little snitch. He was telling on him.
Yeah.
That's so whimsical that the Nazis would like employ monkeys.
Employ monkeys, yeah.
Like that's like one of the like scientists of the Third Reich. That's like, maybe we shall employ the monkeys. Like you hear about all their like horrific scientific experiments, and they're just truly innovative minds. They just the monkey will help. Then Indiana Jones goes to Argentina and runs into all of them again, and he's like, how did you guys get here? We're working for the United States government. We got the Ark anyway.
I heard okay, so there is a theory that is pretty well known among fans, but I found a new one today that I hadn't heard before. So the more popular one that you may have heard of is that there's a simpler or more smooth way of like saying it, but it's basically like Indiana Jones is not needed. Like if he was not in this, like it wouldn't have changed anything, which has like been kind of somewhat disproven. But it's basically the idea is like, well, the Nazis would have found the Ark anyways. It would have just taken them a little bit longer, and they would have died anyways. But the clapback to that is that like, not exactly, because they were originally going to take it to Berlin, but it was because of his meddling, because he blew up the plane, that they decided to take it to that island first to open it and like kill themselves or whatever. And then kind of in tangent with that, the theory that I read today was that Indiana Jones causes World War II and causes the Holocaust. Or just the World War II, I guess. But basically it's like, if he wasn't there to stop them, they would have just taken it to Berlin and opened it in front of Hitler and Goebbels and all them, and they would have all died.
And he deprived us of a scene of Hitler's face like melt. Yeah, because we got Hitler being like shredded into cheese in Inglourious Bastards. Mm-hmm. We need more alternate timeline movies where Hitler
does.
Just all these insane butterfly effect ways that Hitler meets like a horrific demise.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
Yeah. There's a
because they didn't know what it was gonna do, right? They knew it could be it could be powerful.
Their thinking was that like, if we have that, then we have the power of God, and you know, they thought that lightning was going to shoot out and they could like use it to kill people or something. I don't know exactly. Nazi shit, whatever. Yeah. There's the show Preacher, based on the comic. I think it's in the second season. Yeah, because at the end of the first season, the preacher sends one of the characters to hell, and in the second season you kind of follow that character in hell, trying to kind of get back to Earth, and Hitler is a character in hell, and he's like bullied by all the other people, and he like becomes friends with the guy in hell. It's pretty great. But there's one where you get to see him like kind of beat up and shit on a lot. He's just like this little puny dude.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Just
funny.
He's sitting alone at the lunch table in the cafeteria.
Like literally, yes. They have like a cafeteria scene, and it's like high school bully shit.
Yeah. Like who else would even be in hell to be like, no, we're not sitting with you, dork.
Yeah.
Those theories, those sound like theories that like Quentin Tarantino characters would say.
Yeah.
Like that's like a scene from Reservoir Dogs. They're like, Indiana Jones didn't even need to be there. All that shit would have happened anyway. Like that's just Tarantino like trying to flex on like, because isn't there a scene in one of those in Reservoir Dogs? Is there a scene
where
they
like the Madonna, like a virgin?
Maybe, yeah.
That's the opening scene for Reservoir Dogs, where they're like,
yeah, I feel like there was like a scene where they were talking about like a famous movie or like a movie. It's like one of those movie theories that gets parroted around by everybody else because they saw it in
theories.
Yeah.
That's what we should do. We should do a remake of Reservoir Dogs with Matt Pat.
Gape Theory? Is that what you said?
No, Game Theory.
I thought you said, I misheard you. I thought you said Gape Theory.
That'd be pretty awesome too.
That's his OnlyFans channel that he made.
He should do that.
He's like, but that's just a theory, a Gape Theory.
Every video is the exact same.
Anyway.
Yeah, fuck, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I love that with that you know, that's the scene where they open the Ark and stuff. You have kind of the three primary dudes. You know, you have Belloc, Tote, and then I don't know the third guy, the strong-jawed Nazi man.
Yeah.
And they each get like their own special demise. It's like the strong jaw guy, his face gets like suctioned, like decompressed, and then Tote's face melts, and then Belloc's face, like, head explodes, and his fingers like go. That's my favorite part. Is his fingers going like.
Pretty graphic. It's like a PG-13 movie. Mm-hmm. There's like there's a lot of like blood. People get shot, and they you see the blood, and yeah. There's a handful of like headshots in this that I was like, ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or like Alfred Molina getting speared and like through his face, and he's got the blood pouring down and stuff.
Yeah, and there's even I feel like some like kind of slapstick, like there's like some slapsticky death in there too. Like like in that opening scene when he's like talking about his previous partner or whoever, and then like the walls come in or whatever, and then when they open or whatever, there's like the skeleton and then like I feel like they even do that where the head is just like looks at him
or like turns.
He's like he addresses it too. He's like, oh hey, I forget his name.
Satipo or Sapito, Satipo, I think is his name.
No, not the Alfred Molina character.
Oh,
was that he's like talking to Satipo about another guy that he used to work with.
Oh,
and then there's like some sort of trap that gets sprung, and there's a body that's been in there a while, and he addresses it like he gives it the same name as the name that he told Satipo, like it's someone that he knew that had also gone after this thing that met a similar fate.
Okay, yeah. I thought, because he does that too when he comes upon Satipo's, like, speared. He's also said that to him. He says, adios, Satipo.
Yeah, because, yeah.
So he does that again, yeah.
And then, like, there's even more when they get trapped in the thing. Like, they, like, trap him in the room where the Ark was.
Oh, the Well of Souls.
The Well of Souls, yeah. And then they kind of like find their way out, and there's just like a ton of like skeletons and dead bodies, and I feel like they all are surrounding her, but they're all just like,
like it's almost like they're like. I think the idea is that it's supposed to feel like they're like coming to life, kind of like zombie, going at her, but it's more just, I guess, realistically, it's just like she knocked one over, and then it was like a domino effect where they were all kind of like getting kind of tipped over or whatever. And then I love that like she's like screaming and freaking out, and then Indy just kind of comes up and he's like, all right, let's go, and he just kind of like pulls her out of it. I feel like that happens a few times in this, or maybe just across the series, where like people will be caught in stuff freaking out, and Indiana will just be like, all right, let's keep moving.
He's like, yeah, like, all right,
not addressing.
Come on, woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love I really like Marion too. I think she has a great sidekick person. Sala, like this well-rounded kind of ragtag team that he comes up with, but his and Marion's like chemistry and rapport is like really great, I think.
I don't know what they've got there.
Well, I know what I've got here. Come on. Buy a drink. You know. A drink?
Yeah, she's good at like being the damsel in distress, but also like can clearly hold her own and is just as clever as Indiana Jones is. Mm-hmm. Like she think, or like he thinks that she's dead because like there's like that scene with like all the different crates, or like the and then the one that
baskets.
And then the one that's on the bus that he thinks that she's in explodes, and then we find out, because I don't know, as like a moviegoer, I was like, no, there's no way that she's like actually dead. Mm-hmm. But she's not in the movie for like a hot second after that, and then it's only till he finds her like tied up in the room. He kind of, I don't know. I feel like he kind of almost like forgets about her. Like he's sad that she's dead, but he's like, well, anyway. And then he only finds out that she's alive when he goes into that room.
They do the whole. That's like because that's after he does the Staff of Ra, and they're trying to like leave that area, and then he finds her. Yeah. So it is a little while. That is kind of. Yeah, now that I think about it, that is like a decent chunk of the movie. That's almost like another good example of that, where she's tied up, kidnapped, like she doesn't know what's gonna happen, and he's like, sorry, I actually can't rescue you right now. So just hang in there. And he just leaves her. This is completely coincidental because I was reading about this before we even pulled this from the cup. But I was reading about Klaus Kinski, the actor. You're familiar with him, at least? He worked in like... He's probably most known for his work with Werner Herzog. He's in like Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and what's it called? Fitzcarraldo.
Okay.
But he's like it's also like crazy. Like he would like get into fights with Herzog and others on sets. Herzog like more or less tried to kill him at least once.
Holy shit.
Like they fucking hated each other. But anyways, I guess the important thing is that he's a very forward man, of very not shy about sharing his opinion. So he was offered the role of Todt for this movie, the glasses German dude, Nazi guy. And he refused the role, telling director Steven Spielberg that the script was a yawn-making, boring pile of shit and moronically shitty. And I remember that when I watched the movie, and I was like, I gotta mention that because that is so like him.
A yawn-making, boring pile of shit.
Yeah.
Woo. Yeah, I mean, I looked him up, and on Wikipedia, even Herzog describes him as one of the greatest actors of the century, but also a monster and a great pestilence. So
yeah, that's why I think like because they worked on like 4 or 5 movies together, and I'm sure because it's Herzog, like even though they fucking hated each other, he's like, oh, but that's why he's such a great actor. It's because he has so much passion.
Yeah.
So that's probably like the reason why he wanted to work with him like multiple times.
Yeah, he's I bet my dad would know him. Because he's in a bunch of those like spaghetti westerns.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's in like Fistful of Dollars or something. One of those.
Yeah, or for a few dollars more.
For a few dollars more. That one. Okay, yeah.
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 Damn.
I would
Dr. Zhivago.
Yeah,
he is in a Fistful of Dollars.
Okay.
Oh, all right. So he had some like crossover appeal, not just like strictly German movies. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the ones he's done with Herzog, but I'm definitely interested. Just I don't know. I just want to see what he's got.
Yeah.
Because I've only seen those Clint Eastwood ones.
Oh, he wanted Danny DeVito to play Sala.
Okay.
But DeVito had to drop out due to conflicts with Taxi.
Oh, okay. That would have been.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of character, but so Danny DeVito would have been Egyptian. I mean, I guess it's John Rhys Davies. I don't know what he is, but I don't think he's Egyptian. So
yeah. So what was George Lucas's contribution? Just the writing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know exactly but it's like they both. They both like wrote it together or something. They've had a lot of like collabs over the years in various forms. Almost like Raimi and the Coen brothers, how they just kind of like, worked on each other's movies here and there.
Right.
I want to say like the original concept, the original idea was George Lucas's.
Okay.
And then he brought it to Spielberg, and they maybe kind of like fine-tuned it. Lawrence Kasdan, I think, actually wrote the screenplay.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Famed Dreamcatcher director Lawrence Kasdan.
That's all I can think of.
I mean, yes, but yeah, this is one of those movies where it's just like,
it's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. There's
go watch it.
Yeah, there's so many like classic scenes, moments, lines, just all these different elements that are just so Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the very infamous scene where the dude's like swinging his sword, acting all badass, and he just shoots him. Just ugh. Like it's such a good like character development thing where like, I mean, we've been with this character for like almost like an hour already, so it's not like we're like, oh wow, like we're learning new traits about him, but it is just another one of those like, oh yeah, like he has the capacity to like run from giant boulders and do these like great physical feats, and he can throw down in a fight, but sometimes he just doesn't want to. And it's like, the guy, he's like, screw it, and just shoots the dude, which apparently he had like a stomach bug that day or something like that, and like there was like a whole scripted fight scene, and he was just like, what if I just shoot the guy? And I guess Spielberg was like, yeah, do it. And then that's again, the most famous, it's one of the most famous scenes from a movie that is almost entirely famous scenes.
Yeah.
Like the airplane fight, I feel like I've seen this before. I think it's, you know what? I think I should just say I've seen this movie because like I recognized 95% of it.
Yeah. I think even if you don't have like you said, like a grandma who'd like had it on tape or whatever, just if you watch any like video essays on YouTube or like, shit like that, you're just bound to find it because this movie just has so many examples of like, good direction, good action sequences, good like pacing, good blocking and lighting, and all these different things that make up a good action adventure movie. So it makes sense. It's got a lot of examples because it does a lot of the shit right. There's even a I haven't watched it. It's available for free. I'm curious, but I don't know if I want to actually like spend the time on it. Where if I'm going to, I'd rather just watch the movie. But Steven Soderbergh did a very Steven Soderbergh thing, and he did an edit of this movie where I don't think he actually like changed anything. Like I don't think he cut any scenes or anything like that. But he changed it to black and white and removed all of the sound, and just there's kind of like an ambient like electronic score over the entire thing, and it's specifically to like force you to pay attention to the staging. And he has like a little essay that he wrote with it, and he's like, by stripping it of all other distractions, it makes you pay attention to how it's set up and the visual storytelling and stuff, which is cool. But like, I've like, I've kind of skipped around it. I'm just like, I just want to watch the movie though. I want to watch the.
I can appreciate all of that stuff with the sound and the dialogue and the acting.
Yeah. Beyond that, I don't know. You got anything else to add?
Nothing beyond just referencing scenes that were cool. Car chase scene, like the famous, snakes. Why is it always got to be snakes? It's like the most quotable movie ever.
Yeah, it's up there. It's got to be up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got monkey Nazis. I mean, it definitely makes me want to watch the other ones in the series now. Or at least like the OG. Because the other ones, they're like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Wasn't Star Wars the same way though? Like the first one wasn't called Star Wars?
Just Star Wars. And I think it was like
okay.
I think George Lucas maybe had plans to do other ones, but he may have just like written that as a standalone initially. He may have had the other stuff conceived, but it was just Star Wars and like basically if it didn't do well, it was just, just gonna be that.
Yeah.
But since it was so big, it, got the sequels and
right.
The sequels. Yeah, that's a good thing to, I guess, wrap it up with. This is definitely, my favorite. I may have actually seen Temple of Doom more than this because that was my favorite when I was a kid. It's way more like actiony and stuff. And yeah, I would say the original trilogy are all solid. I haven't watched the others in a little while, but I would say those are both 7s or 8s, somewhere in there. And then Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny are like 6s, 5 or 6s for me. But I don't get the overall hate for, especially Kingdom of the Crystal Skull gets like a bit too much hate in my eyes. Like, to me, it still feels like an Indiana Jones movie. It's just my big gripe with them, and especially Dial of Destiny, is like, it's sad. Like, he's so old. It's not fun. Like, you don't get the cool, like, he just doesn't have the charisma that he has in the old ones, especially this one. And like,
yeah, he just kind of talks like that now.
Yeah, and like, especially in Dial of Destiny, he'll like hop like over like a 1-foot gap, and it's like, man, that's all you can muster at this point, right?
Well, that's what's crazy is I remember when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, and even then people were like, damn, Harrison Ford is old. And then they did another one like over a decade later.
No, I know. Before we saw Dial of Destiny this summer, Kalia watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull again. I think I was at work, so I caught like the very end of it, but I was like, oh my god, he looks so young here. Compared to now. I'm like, he looks so much younger. I can't believe this is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
But still older in the sense that like he definitely wasn't doing as much action-y things or whatever. It's like, I'm not gonna believe that he's doing this stuff anymore, It's ridiculous. So really, that's my biggest thing is it's just kind of, it's a little bit of a bummer because it's not as fun because it's just an old guy. The other thing I was gonna say is that I think another thing that I really appreciated about this movie, again, was that it felt like it was in real places. It felt like it was like in an actual physical space. Like it wasn't just like entirely done on like green screen like how movies are now. And I didn't want to like go to bat for like the studio system from like back in the day, but there's a certain era of movies that like kind of I don't know, but again, maybe it's because it's sort of influenced by those movies from the 40s and the 50s that were like those like Hollywood studio system movies, but it feels like one of those in that like way that like 1950s movies feel, where there's almost like a coziness to it. Like at the end when like the Ark is like freaking out and everyone's getting liquefied, it's very clear that like the sky is like superimposed. It's like it's kind of like lit in a weird way where you're like, okay, this is clearly fake. Like I can like the stuff in the sand, stuff in the jungle, it's like probably on a sound stage, but it looks pretty authentic.
this looks kind of fake, but it looks fake in that 1950s way where it's like you almost give it a pass because it's like, yeah, this is just, it's like that old school style of doing things. So I really appreciated the fact that, again, it was like done in physical spaces. And I was almost thinking, like, because we watched Die Hard and then we watched this, I was like, are the best movies from the 80s? Because it seems like there's a lot of really, really good movies.
There's a lot of
from
good ones. Yeah.
I would say like 80s to like the mid 2000s are probably like my...
Maybe.
I mean, because of this show, I'm really appreciating stuff from like the 40s and the 50s now much more than I think I have previously. But I don't know. I feel like the cutoff is like 2007 or 8, where it's like, man, there's kind of a drop off in like stuff that I view as like, I don't know,
Yeah.
as good. Like there's still stuff that is coming out that is good.
Yeah.
That's
2008, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That was the final. That was the end cap.
yeah, you know what? You're right. A nice little bookend.
Yeah.
But I had that thought where I was like, is this the best period of filmmaking?
I think about that sometimes. How you know, like my favorite directors growing up. I guess, you know, sure, I would put Spielberg in there. Fincher. Why is this so hard for me right now? Scorsese.
Right.
Christopher Nolan. Like, they were so strong. Like, you know, in my opinion, they had such strong movies. I was growing up and, like, I kind of take it just as a given. Wes Anderson, too. There's another one for you. I kind of take it as a given that, like, no movie they release nowadays, like, ever since, I would say, like, after I got out of high school or something, it's not going to be as good. And I'm like, okay with that. And, like, I'm used to it now. But it's weird that, like, I don't want to say I go into them expecting that, but it just kind of always ends up being the case. I would say the one that comes closest to breaking that is the Grand Budapest Hotel from Wes Anderson. Because as far as, like, within the last 10 years or whatever,
yeah,
like that's probably like a top 3 Wes Anderson movie for me.
Oh, wow.
So, maybe. I mean, there's some really tight ones up there. But, you know, like Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm like, yeah, it's probably the best one of his I've seen since Hugo, but it's not as good as, like, Hugo or... I mean, honestly, the more I sit on it, I was, like, thinking I liked it more than Hugo and Shutter Island, but I'm like, no, I think I kind of like those ones more now. Or, like, Fincher, you know, what was his last one? Mank. Gone Girl is better. Gone Girl's pretty solid, but it's no Social Network. It's no Fight Club. It's no Seven. Like, those are fucking movies, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like Gone Girl, and it's like, yeah, it's a good movie. It's probably one of the better movies of the year that it came out, but, like, it's not those other movies that I said. It's
not a movie like Inception, where, I mean, I loved when Inception came out.
Yeah, Inception's great. Yeah, no, that one counts as a great, you know, that's still in that.
Like, for me, honestly, I think that's like where Fincher peaked for me. Well, no, Social Network.
Nolan, you mean? Or wait, what are you talking about?
Nolan. Yeah, you're right. Wait.
Nolan did Inception.
I was totally confusing the two for a second there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember the last Fincher movie. Probably The Social Network
Social Network. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is pretty strong too. I would almost maybe kind of put that in that group too. And that was like the year after Social Network. That was probably the last one of his that I really dug. Nolan, I mean, I love Interstellar too. Interstellar's
I really need to give that one another shot. Like, I think we watched it on Christmas Eve like a few years ago, which is a bizarre choice for a Christmas Eve movie, but we did.
And then, I mean, I did also really, really like Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is great.
Yeah.
But again, it's not one that I'm really like raring to, like, I thought it was a great movie. Technically, like, it was really well done, really well acted.
Yeah.
I'll be very happy if it gets some Oscar nominations or wins, like it gets some awards recognition. I think it deserves it. But it's not one that I'm like, man, it's like The Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, Memento. It's like, again, those are movies, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I wonder where would you put Spielberg for like that
his,
sort
his
of
last.
yeah, where like the last great Spielberg movie.
The last great one.
There are a handful I haven't seen. I really want to see Minority Report.
You know, for me, it's probably one that not many people would say.
Hook?
But for me, it's probably The Terminal. I love The Terminal. And that was like 2004. The Terminal is awesome. That's one of my favorite movies of his. I also really liked War Horse. That was a pretty good one. But I don't think that I would count that as like a great Spielberg. So I do think my answer would probably be The Terminal. Although, no, I haven't seen it, but I really want to see The Adventures of Tintin. People say that one's really good. And that one was 2011. So I want to give Adventures of Tintin a shot. But yeah, and that it's The Terminal. And then right before that, you got Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, Saving Private Ryan, Amistad.
I noticed you skipped over AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I wouldn't include that in the. It's okay. It's a fine movie, but it's not a great Spielberg, you know.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Yeah, I kind of want to watch it again. I've only seen it once.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
It's definitely an interesting piece of film history because of the whole like Kubrick overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I saw AI in like theaters as a kid, which again, that's a movie that I think is
I don't know if that's
traumatized
for kids.
me. No. That scene at the beginning when like the Haley Joel Osment robot kid almost drowns the other kid and he's just like in the bottom of the pool with him on top.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'm a kid that could drown in a pool. That's scary to me. Weird movie. They probably saw Spielberg. Oh, Haley Joel Osment. Like, yeah, let's bring our son to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. He directed Twilight Zone, the movie.
He did one of them. Yeah. That was a bunch of different directors. So he did a sequence.
Because I think that's the one. Did I reference that the other day? Like John Landis's helicopter scene. I think that was Twilight Zone, the movie. But yeah, Raiders, E.T., Poltergeist. Well, he didn't direct it. Temple of Doom. You know, yeah, he had banger after banger, especially in the
Hook,
90s.
Jurassic Park, Schindler's List.
Yeah. I mean, Saving Private Ryan was also like, there's just like there's like a range that Spielberg can do where he can do children's movies, but he can also do these like war epics. He's a very versatile director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now the best they can get out of him is like a really good movie. Like I could watch. I remember watching Lincoln and being like, that was a really good movie, but it's not like a movie that I loved. But it was a really well-made movie. You know, like I said, it's got all the things. It's like, it's a well-done movie. It's a good movie, but it's not one that like I really connect with. That I'm really like, wow, that's awesome. I personally like love that movie. So I think he's still got those in him. West Side Story, I would also say, was like a good movie, a well-done movie, but it was just okay to me.
Yeah. Ready Player One, obviously great, awesome.
Yep, yeah. Yeah, but is that just because you're just more impressionable or something when you're younger? So maybe if I had been 10 years older, I wouldn't like those movies in the 2000s as much. But I don't think so, because I feel like people talk about, like, in the greater scheme of things, like Catch Me If You Can and Minority Report aren't as talked about as, his biggest movies, but I feel like people talk about those more than you hear people talk about The Post and shit like that, Yeah. The BFG.
Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate where it's like, again, I've invoked Tarantino plenty tonight, but the fact that Tarantino is like, I'm doing 10 movies and then I'm done. Mm-hmm. So that way he doesn't end up doing a bunch of like Ready Player Ones, where it's like
Yeah,
there's a
right,
you know,
yeah.
there's a certain respectability for like doing your thing and then gracefully bowing out and being
Yeah,
like, I'm
hopefully he
ending
sticks
on
to
my
it, yeah.
terms. But who knows? He could always be like, I got one more in me, you know. People have been
Yeah.
speculating that about David Lynch forever. Like they think
I'm
that
sure,
there's
yeah.
always news that's
He's
just
got to
like
be doing something. He stopped
Yeah.
doing the daily weather reports. He's got to be working on a new movie.
it's like I don't know, man. Dude's like 80 something.
But
There
at the
there
same
was
time,
some great-
he's.
Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, at the same time, he is somebody that like I totally could see him just being like, "Yep, I made a new movie. It's already done.
Yeah, no,
Coming
exactly.
out next week."
He's just he'll be sitting on like a chair with a megaphone, like in Hollywood, just like telling people on the street that he's got a new movie. And everyone who's written all those articles speculating, like, oh, untitled David Lynch project, it's gonna be nothing like what they thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
There was a fun trivia bit about David Lynch and Spielberg that was going around. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently,
Is this regarding Fablemans or
yeah, did you see
is it
that?
the Cheetos thing?
The Cheetos.
Yeah, I did see that.
Just like the guy who made Mulholland Drive in Eraserhead is like, Cheetos are great. I love them.
Yeah.
Or like there's like another like really famous thing that goes around where it's like he's like in the back of a car and he's like, I just had a Coca-Cola. I'm gonna have a second one. Terrific. Just like
He's very like just so I was talking about Werner Herzog before. They're very similar odd old men auteur directors. It's just like Werner Herzog is the sad boy version of
Yeah.
David Lynch, pretty much.
David Lynch finds the little joys in things like a bag of Cheetos where no
Yeah.
one else can.
Yeah, and then like Herzog is just this kind of weirdo
Oh.
art house auteur, makes these very like slow documentaries nowadays, but then he'll just show up in an episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and
Or
again,
as like the
spawned
secret
a
bad guy at
huge
the end of
meme.
Yeah. Or just like plays a secret bad guy at the end of a Tom Cruise movie, because he did that too, just randomly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We should probably rate this thing.
Yeah.
Who went first last time?
I did the last couple times.
Shit. I think it's a 9. Sorry, I don't know. It's not a perfect 10, but
Can you hear that?
oh, I can hear that.
Hey. Yeah, she's in heat right now.
Oh. Yeah, it's a 9. I mean, it's a great like textbook example for like how you do an action movie. It's got everything really, and like despite a few pretty gnarly headshots, it's fun for the whole family. It's it's how movies should be done. So that's a 9.
It's a 10 for me. It's like a low 10. It's on the low end of 10s, but I still gotta give it that 10. It's just
Yeah.
like we were saying, it's another kind of perfect movie for its genre. Perfect kind of what do you want to say, like tentpole or like prototype or template. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Template for like a
The
adventure
template of
movie.
doom.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's kind of Spielberg at the top of the game. It's probably my favorite Spielberg movie. Man, I say that, and then I'm like, but he's got so many good ones. But I do think this is probably my favorite movie of his. I think it just kind of shows his. It's like him firing on all cylinders as a director. I think Jesus Christ, it is his best work as a director specifically. from, all I was saying about like how it's staged, how it's set up, to the actual like directing of like the actors. I just think the whole thing, the whole picture comes together very cohesively, and it's the most Spielberg, Spielberg vibes or whatever. I love the whole vibe of it too. It's that capturing of like that adventure aesthetic, and it's just it nails it. So yeah, it's a 10. It's classic. It's iconic.
Yeah.
We'll have to have our whole list of like each genre and subgenre of
like the tentpoles of each.
Yeah, the pantheon, the gods of movies. We could get really esoteric with it, like Spotify music genres. Have you seen any of those? Like,
oh no, I think I know what you're talking about though. Like music for
really
when you're
weird.
showering and you're running late for work.
No, I mean like very specific subgenres of music. Like I remember one that me and Kalia got on our Spotify Wraps. It appeared because it'll like break down like your most popular music genres. So it'll be like art pop. I usually get Baroque pop will be in mine. But then one we both got was POV indie. We're like, what the fuck is that? I still don't know what it is. So, yeah.
Well, POV is pretty popular with the kids these days. It's one of those like misapplied terms where it'll be like someone filming a video of themselves. Like it'll be like them opening a box, and it'll be like POV. You just got the latest shoes,
that, but
and it's like point of view stands for point of view. This is a shot of you.
True.
It's not your point of view. Mm-hmm. So like POV indie, that just sounds like it's like that sort of like literally. Like I'm literally shitting my pants right now. It's like, no, you're not. You're not using it correctly. POV is one of those big things right now where people are like, I'm making a POV video, and it's like, no, you're in the video. It's not from your perspective. That's not what it means.
So yeah, we could do POV indie drama movie.
POV Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mumblecore horror sci-fi.
Mumblecore horror sci-fi. Any A24 movie. It's a mumblecore.
I was gonna say like Dune or something.
Oh.
Like Denis Villeneuve's Dune. I don't know.
So, I went to go see the new Alexander Payne movie, The Holdovers, which Chloe really wanted to see because she likes Paul Giamatti. I mean, I like Paul Giamatti too, but that was like the selling point for this movie. Mm-hmm. So we went to go see it in the theaters, and it was the most Alexander Payne movie theater crowd I've ever been in. And it was so nice because no one talked. It was a very respectful. We were the youngest people there. Everyone else was like probably 50 plus. Like a lot of older married couples.
I don't know if I've seen any of his movies in theater. No, I think I saw The Descendants in theaters. That might be the only one.
I did. Yeah, I did. Were we there together?
I think we may have seen that one together. Yeah. That sounds right.
I forget some of those movies that he's done. Like I've never seen Sideways. I think I saw Election for like a film interpretation class, and I really like Election. Mm-hmm. So like I've seen a handful of his movies, but The Holdovers, the premise is it's like 1970s, like a boarding school, like a preparatory school, kind of like the Paul Giamatti's like this curmudgeonly old school teacher that almost like takes a certain thrill out of like failing the students because it was almost like the colder East Coast version of Rushmore, where Bill Murray is like, he's like, yeah, you know what, these rich kids, they don't have it when it counts. Like they've had everything on a silver spoon. And Paul Giamatti's character is very similar in that way, where he's like, oh, I have to pass this kid because he's the senator's son. But he's like, no, I'll fail him. I don't give a shit. I don't care who his dad is. And so it's kind of like full of these snot-nosed punk kids that have rich parents, very, very privileged lifestyle kids. But basically, it's like Christmas break, and whoever's parents don't take them on their, holiday vacation have to stay at the school. So like one teacher a year kind of gets stuck.
It's that part right in the middle of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It just expanded to 2 hours.
Yeah. So it's Paul Giamatti and a handful of kids, and then eventually it just becomes Paul Giamatti and one kid, the one kid, this is like his first movie ever, which I was amazed by, because he had one of those faces where I'm like, I've seen you somewhere before. I really haven't. And apparently the kid was a natural, like there was like some interview with Paul Giamatti, or maybe it was the cast and crew, but they were just like, yeah, he really held his own against someone like Paul Giamatti and was able to like really dig into these scenes. They're like, he knew his lines front to back and was like willing to do as many takes as needed. And like, yeah, the kid was great. It's very cold, very, very like sterile, cold environment. Like I said, East Coast cold. Like it takes place right before Christmas, and then it goes all the way into New Year's. So yeah, it is that period between, like when Christmas break is, when you're in school. And they kind of go on some adventures. It's one of those like, oh, maybe we have more in common than we think we do, but we're still gonna butt heads about certain stuff. Like, you're the older generation and you don't understand kids, and like eventually they develop, kind of like a begrudging respect for each other kind of thing. Apparently, I guess Alexander Payne wanted it to have a more film look. Like it definitely is pretty, but I guess they didn't actually shoot it on film, and they just sort of applied a filter to make it look like it was on film, which is kind of a bummer. It's like, if you want it to look like it was on film, just do it on film.
Yeah.
That's just a little tiny nitpick. Some of the characters were a little, I don't know. There's one woman who's in it. She's like kind of she works in like the kitchen in the school.
Is it the black lady?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm familiar with her. She's in some stuff that I watch.
Her character was okay, but there were definitely scenes where I feel like she just walked into frame, and then it was like, in action, and then she would start talking, where it was just like, it felt a little weird and stilted. And the other thing that I guess kind of what prevented it from being like really, really great in my mind was like, anytime there was like a scene where I felt like the dramatic tension was building, and it was gonna do something, it just kind of wiped and went to a different scene. So it was just like stuff was about to happen. There's about to be this great argument, this great revelation. These characters were like really gonna get intense with each other, and then the scenes just kind of ended, which I was it left me a little cold, I guess you could say. But overall, it was nice to see a sort of modern Christmas-ish movie in theaters. The most respectful theater I've ever been in, full of old people going to see an Alexander Payne movie.
Is it a Christmas movie? You would say it's like, does it feel like a Christmas movie? Yeah. Okay.
It's a central plot point.
Nice.
And it's got some pretty good dramatic scenes. Again, the chemistry between Paul Giamatti and this kid, who I really should just say his name.
Dominic Sessa.
Yeah. I could see him being like an A24 darling. Like I could see him being in one of those kind of like elevated horror teen movies or whatever. So I can't tell if Paul Giamatti like has a trained lazy eye, or if they had like
there's
a prosthetic, but like the whole movie
or whatever.
Yeah, because they do address it. There's like a scene where he's like,
they do.
He's like, hey, when I'm talking to you, which one am I supposed to look at?
Oh, okay. I feel like that's gotta be. I don't know. I just feel like I would have noticed that because like I keyed to it immediately, just from from like the poster or trailer or whatever. But maybe
I think that's just a thing Paul Giamatti can do. Which, like, do you think after every take he was just like, oh, like it like physically hurts to like?
Oh yeah, I mean that's bad. Yeah, I don't. There's no way. That's gotta be on purpose. I mean, I can do that too. So,
but can you do it for like 8 hours a day filming scenes where you just gotta?
I probably could. Here we go. Can you see it? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really like give me a headache or doesn't really make me dizzy. It's just as long as I kind of mentally choose an eye to look through.
Oh, okay.
And that just kind of becomes, I don't know. I don't try to do it regularly, but
yeah.
And I definitely don't do it for extended periods because I worry what that would do to my my muscles.
If you make that face long enough, it's gonna stay that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a decent movie. It was, I don't know. It's got that Alexander Payne melodrama. If I remember The Descendants correctly, it's kind of
that vibe.
There's a certain style.
Like Noah Baumbach is like kind of similar.
Yeah.
That I kind of like. They're kind of like side by side in my brain. I often get confused like which one did which movie sometimes.
Yeah, and it did. Speaking of like the anti-Rushmore, it also had the soundtrack was a lot of like Nick Drake style music. So I was like, oh, this feels like a Wes Anderson movie. Like sort of like sparse acoustic guitar, melancholy, just kind of. There was like, because it's like this prep school, but there's some really pretty shots that are like well composed with like very. It's not like that Wes Anderson symmetricalness, but it's like the shots are framed very nicely to the point where they could almost be like paintings, I guess. So I was like, oh, I was getting some like Wes Anderson-ish, like Noah Baumbach, Wes Anderson, like sort of vibes from some of the shot compositions and the soundtrack choices, especially.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely. It's definitely on my list. It looks fun.
Yeah.
I generally enjoy his stuff. I was avoiding the initial first review I saw from anybody I followed. Like they didn't really like it like at all.
Oh.
But then everyone else that I've seen since that I follow either like thinks it's all right or they really like it. So I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, check it out. And then I guess speaking of another Christmas movie, since we're still in the Christmas season,
Yeah.
I watched a Christmas, I guess, classic at this point. That I'd never seen before, Love Actually, which I guess, have you ever seen it?
I don't think so.
It's got like a crazy star-studded cast. But yeah, we were just looking for something that I wanted to watch a Christmas movie that I've never either I'd never seen before or just we hadn't watched together yet, because we usually watch, we always watch Gremlins, we always watch the Santa Claus, we always watch Muppet Christmas Carol,
Die Hard.
Watch something that Die Hard, yeah.
Yeah.
Gremlins
are Gremlins movies Christmas movies?
Yeah, the first one is.
Oh.
I'm not sure if the second one is. I haven't seen the second one nearly as much, but yeah, the first one, 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Apparently, I was looking at reviews afterwards and even online, I not just Letterboxd, but this doesn't have the best kind of historical longevity or whatever. Like, I guess it's gotten a lot of like people have issues with it with the movie, but also like meaning like some of the ways that like women or like the romance is treated, but it's such a like saccharine sweet, like over the top. I'm like, none of this is meant to be taken like real life. Like, it's so over the top, like love is everywhere, love is the best thing, everybody that you have a crush on or are interested in also is interested in you, for sure.
Oh yeah, of course. You are the main character. Your life is a movie.
But the thing with this movie is it's not an anthology. It's all happening at the same time. It's all in the same universe. They even like cross paths at some point, but it's like 10 different couples. It follows.
Yeah.
I think
there's a chart.
Sorry, 10 different people. So I think it's 5 or 6 different couples or love triangle sort of thing. Yeah, the one on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, that's insane.
I sent that to Kalia. I was like asking her questions periodically because she's seen it before, and she was like, well, I was like, what's going on right now? And she's like, you didn't hear her mention like her brother in the hospital. And I was like, this is harder to follow than fucking Inception. This is crazy. How confusing this rom-com is.
This is Christmas Magnolia.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's and most of it doesn't really matter. Most of it's just kind of a fun sort of like, oh, the male love interest in this, he's actually the brother of the female love interest in this other one, and like their two storylines in the movie don't really conflict with each other.
It's
that
just
much,
coincidental.
It's just kind of like a little touch, so that like they have a scene where like they talk on the phone. So it's like, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's kind of neat, and it kind of connects them. Or like,
it makes the whole thing sort of cohesive.
Yeah, or you'll see like they'll be like at a wedding, and then you'll see characters from the other storylines at the wedding, and they don't really have any lines, but they'll be there. So you'll be like, oh, okay, all right, they're, yeah, but overall, I thought it was like it's like a good that era, rom-com, but people fucking hate this movie. There's some people who fucking despise this movie. I'm just like, is that like, I remember being like that about rom-coms when I was younger. I'm like, is it just that, or I feel like this one in particular gets a lot of shit. But there's I really like how it takes how it like explores the concept. Like, it is kind of fun how each couple it's not all just like, it is all hetero, which I guess is like another issue people have. It's like, oh, there's all these couples and there's no same-sex ones. Ooh. It's like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I don't really think about that stuff, but maybe that's just because I'm a straight white man. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised you didn't give Indiana Jones the Raiders of the Lost Ark a 1, because it was white man colonizer vibes.
Yeah.
Also, there was like an age gap reference where she was like, she's like, I was a kid, and he's like, you know what you were doing.
Yeah. That's a little weird.
Anyway.
Yeah. But I guess what I mean is like, what I like about it is that like, there's one where it's like, oh, this girl likes a guy that she works with, but she's too afraid to ask him out, and it's kind of about that. But then there's another one where like one of the characters, the love is basically, it's platonic. It's just he realizes that he really like loves this guy that works for him. He's like, oh, you're like my best friend. That's kind of the culmination of their storyline. It's not romantic, but that is a type of love. It's platonic love, and I really like the way that it explores differently. There's one, my favorite storyline is Liam Neeson and his son, where his stepson, Liam Neeson's wife dies, and like the first scene you see of him is like giving a speech at her funeral, and then he like has her stepson, but they like never really got along or connected. And then the stepson like tells him that he likes a girl at his school. So Liam Neeson makes that kind of his main goal to like, you need to ask her out. You need to like work up the courage. And like, that's how they kind of build their relationship, their foundation for their father-son relationship. And I thought that was really sweet, that it's like, oh, it's kind of about him asking this girl out at school, but the relationship that we're watching is this father-son relationship and them learning to love each other.
Right.
It
and
is
that's
still
like that one movie where he like gets nudes from her or something like that. What was that other movie that you watched?
I did think of that too. That was Crazy Stupid Love. I thought of that same thing. Yeah. No, this girl is the same age as him. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
and
good.
It's nothing like that. It also helps that it has a huge cast of people that I like a lot. Colin Firth is really good in this. Hugh Grant is probably the best character. Liam Neeson's got a good role. Alan Rickman's on it. Speaking of Die Hard,
I saw that.
Yes.
I saw in your review the Andrew Lincoln plot is like the worst one.
Have you not? You may have actually seen. I feel like this is like a meme or like something. It's a shot of him standing outside and he's holding like cue cards and it says like, "To me, you are perfect."
Okay.
Have you ever seen that scene? And he's basically, it's like him like confessing his love to Keira Knightley, but it's just it is so awful. It's so like, so not only is it like everything leading up to that is creepy and weird and wrong, but it's like having to witness that scene. It is like so fucking cringy. It's so awful. So he's best friends with Chiwetel Ejiofor, who marries Keira Knightley at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
He's his best man, and he films their wedding. But they had like another like professional videographer, and so Keira Knightley like comes to Andrew Lincoln. She like calls him or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, our videographer didn't do a good job, but I know you also filmed, so can I get a look at your video? See what you got?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. It's not that great. I don't know." She's like, They
just filmed her.
Yes. And they established that like he's never warmed up to her. Like she's like, "Yeah, I know we never really talked that much, but you're whatever Chiwetel's character's name is. It's like you're his best mate. I just thought maybe I'd ask you." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, you can come over, check it out." And so she watches the tape and it's just like no words, it's just she's watching it and like the whole video is like her. And it's like her like realizing that and him like standing behind her, and I was like chicks probably thought this was the most romantic scene ever, and Kalia was like, "Yep." Not that she did. She also thinks, she actually told me ahead of time. She was like, I was like, "Yeah, is it good?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's good. It's like 70% good, 30% cringe." And then afterwards, she was like, "Yeah, all of the cringe was that storyline." So there's that, and then she ends up leaving, and then I'm telling you their entire storyline. It's the wedding. She calls him to ask about the video. She comes to view the video, and then she leaves. And then, like, near the end, the culmination is him showing up outside their door. And then she's, like, inside watching TV with Chiwetel. And then she goes to answer the door, and he just has this long thing. It's like, "Since it's Christmas, you tell the truth. And the truth is that to me, you're perfect." And blah, blah, blah. And I also think there's some people who watch that and think it's so romantic, but if you're not into it, it is so cringy and so weird. And she's also out there for a while. I'm like, what if he came to the door? Like, what would Andrew Lincoln do if the guy was like, "Hey, she's been out there a while"?
It'd be funny if like she's standing at the window looking at it, and then like she starts reading that out loud, like their cue cards. Yeah. And he's like, "Honey, what are you talking about?" She keeps reading it out loud.
Yeah. But it's made all the more frustrating because every other storyline other than that is like kind of cute and clever how it handles it. Like, I thought the resolution to a handful of the storylines was really sweet and really clever. I don't know, like kind of a perfect little way to end a, kind of a short romance story. But then there's that one that is like, it doesn't feel like it's written by the same person who wrote the rest of the movie because of how just off the mark it is. Weird. Yeah. But overall, I enjoyed it for what it was. I would if you're still looking to watch some Christmas movies before Christmas this year, or next time around, give it a go. It's got a lot of people to like in it.
Yeah. I think Chloe's seen it.
Pretty fun and enjoyable.
And she's like, "You haven't seen it?" I'm like, "No." So that might be one that she makes me watch soon.
Yeah. Bill Nighy's in it. He's great too.
Yeah.
He's kind of just off on doing his own thing. He plays like an aging rock pop star who's kind of jaded. Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. He's
going against type. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So, got another movie.
Yeah.
Try to just get one out of the cup again.
Temple of Doom.
I did just get one this time. Hey.
Oh.
Hey, we were talking about this guy.
Uh-oh.
Pretty cool dude.
Uh-oh.
Another 80s movie.
Oh, all right.
From 1986, directed by David Lynch. We're gonna watch Blue Velvet.
Hell yeah! Have you seen Blue Velvet?
Yeah, I've seen Blue Velvet. Yeah.
Okay. Second Lynch.
Yes.
Hell yeah! I'm stoked.
Looks like it's on a lot of like premium subscriptions. It looks like you're probably gonna have to rent it, but it is available at most streaming things. But it looks like it's for rent. Amazon, Paramount Plus. This is premium subscription. I don't know exactly. What that means. Hulu, Apple TV. Yeah, it's at a bunch. Just gotta rent it. So yeah, watch it at one of those if you don't want to be spoiled for Blue Velvet before next week's episode. These episodes come out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube and Twitch in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I am... No, I don't want to say that. I was gonna say I'm a little monkey that's not a Nazi. TJ, and with me as always.
I don't know, man. I'm just also not a Nazi, but I'm getting my face melted by the Ark. I'm like Bill Hader in Pop Star, who got super into flatlining. I get super into arcing. And that's it. Nick, I think I said it. Roll the tapes. Maybe I did. But that's who I am.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.